Are you familiar with the book, What's the Matter with Kansas?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful book.
Yes.
Rich Frank, I think, is the author of it. And he talks about how we as Americans have this tendency to vote against our own interest. And I believe it's so much because of the way it is set up in the media. You know, it is sold to us, these ideologies that you're talking about as being very attractive. And the way that they name things, it's their campaigns, their media campaigns that encourage people to vote against their own interest.
Well, these campaigns do, and there are lots of what I call bait and switch issues. And Frank did actually talk about that in What's the Matter with Kansas. He says, you know, you vote to outlaw abortion, which they never do because they can't run on it next time if they do that. But they whip up emotion on these hot button issues, and then what happens, what you actually get for that vote is $5 gasoline. Because it's the economic issues that the fundamentalists really care, economic fundamentalists care about. They want to privatize profit but socialize pain. We've seen that recently in the bailouts of the mortgage companies. Anytime a big company starts taking a hit, now they're going to step in and the government's going to bail them out. Whereas if it's an individual, well, just too bad you didn't manage your money correctly enough.
Right. I can't believe that there's not outrage over this, that we are spending U.S. tax dollars to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars to bail out one corporation after another, and yet you're not accountable, you're not responsible, you're not taking care of yourself. And I think it's big media, big oil, big pharmaceutical, they're all in cahoots together. Somebody sent me an email talking about the Honorable Phil Gramm and how they were quoting him, and I thought, Phil Gramm was a congressman from Texas that was responsible for deregulating the industry that allowed Enron to do all of the shenanigans that they did. And what Enron did is they had put Wendy Graham on their board of directors responsible for oversight. And as soon as Enron collapsed, she was a sitting board member. They were able to just vanish into the sunset, and nobody talks about these things.
Well, they didn't quite vanish.
They've been recycled.
Phil Gramm is the senior economic advisor to John McCain.
Ah.
Phil Gramm also is responsible when he was in the Senate for deregulating what is called the derivatives market. You don't have to know what that means. I'll just tell you what it means is he's responsible for the subprime mortgage crisis.
Oh my.
Because he got the legislation passed that allowed that to happen outside the purview of regulators. Now he's John McCain's chief economic advisor. What does that say for the future of the country if John McCain is elected? More of the same? Probably. You know, we were talking earlier about women in foreign countries. We have now what is burgeoning into a global food crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And that is due to an unregulated or very lightly regulated commodities market. And people like Phil Gramm, when they're in the Senate, they always vote to deregulate, deregulate, deregulate. And what happens is we feel it at the supermarket and we feel it at the gas pump.
Well, I think one of the interesting spins that they have had recently is that all of a sudden this oil crisis, the $4 and $5 a gallon gasoline, is the Democrats' problem because we haven't allowed them to drill. I want to pull my hair from my head. I would be bald if I was able to exhibit the anger that I feel on that type of rhetoric that I read and I hear and I see every day. Because what happened to the words of Jimmy Carter in 1977-78 when he said, if we don't get off of foreign oil, if we don't develop alternative energies, this is exactly where we're going to be. Oil is a finite product. And what I'd like to encourage all of our viewers to do is to just look around your home, get in your car, and take a look at everything we make from petroleum products, from pens to the tires in your car to the clothes that you wear, to medical devices. I mean, we use petroleum products for everything, and to use it to fuel our vehicles is a waste of an incredible resource that we have. So, the first thing that Ronald Reagan did was take the solar panels off the White House.
Yes.
And deregulate, because the market will take care of this problem. Now, I keep on saying, as painful as the prices are at the gas pump, that as these prices continue to go up, it should fuel American innovation and creativity so that we can move in that direction. But it's so angering because we don't have the laws to help us, or the incentives. I mean, we still can write off a Hummer.
Yes.
I own a business. I can write off a gas-guzzling Hummer next year.
Well, I think what is such a shame, and one of the other reasons I wrote the book, is that women at the bottom suffer more than anyone else. Women are still the lowest paid sector in the employment pool. Women of color even worse off than white women. It's not going to be very long until a minimum wage worker has to work 1 hour to buy 1 gallon of gasoline. Think about that.
Right.
You will be working, in some cases, if you're a minimum wage worker, half of your day just to get to work and back.
Right.
And the reason that I am so concerned about the energy crisis is that it isn't hurting those of us who can write off a Hummer. And it's certainly not hurting the guys riding around in the backs of black limos in New York City making the deals. It is hurting the everyday worker, the everyday woman and man who may be holding down a couple of jobs,
right,
just to make ends meet. And that's why it's so important to look at who you're voting for.